Okay, folks, we are back. I am on the line with Georgia State Senator Steve Gooch. Senator Gooch, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, Brian. Good morning.
All right, wait a minute. Whoa. I don't want to sound like this right out of the box. You were supposed to say I'm all fired up.
I'm tired. I've drove all night. I'm worn out. I feel like you. I heard you had a busy weekend too, and so yeah, I had an awesome time in Macon yesterday. I drove down yesterday afternoon and got into the hangar and sat there for about 3 hours, and man, it just got more and more exciting the longer we waited for that Air Force One to land, and the crowds were pumped up. I just sent you a picture. I don't know if you have time to get it up or not, but
we're not
there must have been 20.
We'll get it throughout the show. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay, good. There must have been 20,000 people there. I've never seen anything like it at a political rally before, never. And I've been doing this for a long time, but it was incredible. The enthusiasm and the excitement throughout that whole place, man, it was rocking.
Well, folks, for you at home that looking at the picture, we have State Senator Steve Gooch. That would be him right behind the President of the United States, Donald Trump, last night. Holding your campaign sign. Let me ask you a question on the crowd side. I mean, size. I know you said 20, but I won't mention any names. Somebody that I know very well said that they went to authorities and there was maybe even an estimate of 30,000, with several still outside. So, I mean, do you have a number of 20 or
no? There's no official count that I'm aware of. I'm sure John Watson would be a better authority to ask that. But I can tell you this: when I drove in, the traffic was backed up for several miles from that airport, and I took some back roads thanks to my Waze software app that I was using. It redirected me to some back roads. Otherwise, probably would not have made it in there. I know some people did not make it into the arena there, into that hangar. They had to go to another facility where they had some big screen TVs set up for the overflow crowds. And so that's in addition to the people that were standing outside on the tarmac outside the hangar behind where the 100 or so camera people were. And so you couldn't even see a lot of them because of the camera stage. But the picture I sent you just a few minutes ago shows you just how large that crowd was, plus the overflow in the other hangar. It was amazing.
Folks, as soon as we're done as soon as this interview is over, we'll get Josh that picture and get it up so you can see the one State Senator Gooch. Senator, let me ask you a question now. You're behind the president there. How fired up is that crowd? And were you a little shocked and taken back? I mean, you hear about these rallies, but when you get there, were you a little shocked and taken back? And do you see a lot of different people that the media will not tell us attend? Would there be maybe some Latino minorities or whatever? Do you see a diverse crowd that the media does not let us know attend these rallies?
There was some diversity there. There were Latinos and there were blacks in the crowd, a lot of women, a lot of children, just a very diverse background, middle class, working class people, not extremists, but just good old-fashioned American people and good Georgians. They were from all over the state and the southeast. I met some fine people next to me and behind me, and we exchanged business cards. And so they have the same values that we have up here in North Georgia. They're good conservative people. They want to protect our borders. They want to protect our Constitution, and they want to see our government doing what it's supposed to do and not be something for everybody and just give away money that we don't have. And I think the president has delivered on the promises that he made 2 years ago. He's done more in the first 2 years than any other president in my memory, in my lifetime of voting, and people are excited about it. I've never seen this much enthusiasm toward a president and this governor's election in the last 20 years that I've been involved in politics.
And saying that, not to disregard the importance or the star power of anybody else that has come to Georgia, just all the rallies you've ever attended, nothing compared to this? No
way. This beats them all. I've been to a lot of rallies with, vice presidential candidates as well, but there's nothing in my memory that tops this. This was the biggest and the most enthusiastic crowd I've ever seen, and very, very organized group, very calm. There was no violence. There was no protesting. It was, I mean, it was just a fun event to be around. It's something you would want to take your kids to.
Okay, let me ask you this. How do you feel? We're on the phone with the State Senator Steve Gooch here in Georgia. How do you feel, Senator, about the enthusiasm coming out of there for the Republican ticket? Let's go from Brian Kemp, and you don't have to name everyone, but how do you feel about the entire ticket, and how do you feel about Brian Kemp's chances here in Georgia against Stacey Abrams tomorrow?
Well, you know, I live in the most conservative part of the state, obviously, and in my district tends to vote the most conservative in the state, just like Congressional District 9 is number 3 in the country. So I feel that we're going to win all the way down the ballot. But everywhere I go in Georgia, I feel the same excitement and the same enthusiasm. And I know the Democrats are pumped up, and they're trying to get their vote out as well. But I believe we're going to have a huge victory here this week. There's not going to be a runoff. I think Brian Kemp wins 56, 57% of the vote. I really do. I think people are that fired up. The turnout has hit record numbers here in North Georgia. We're seeing a record turnout all throughout our counties and all levels in our elections. And so I think this is going to be a big victory for the Republican Party this week.
Well, Senator, I know you asked me why I did not go down, and a lot of people are shocked that I did not attend yesterday, knowing how I support the president. But let me just say this. You remember when the president pointed out at that big area there, the big stand where all the media was at, and he said, I wish they were 2 miles back that way so the rest of the people could get in. I did get my media credentials. I want to thank them for you know, giving us the media credentials. But on the other hand, I would have had to been on that podium way out there, and I may have got stuck next to Jim Acosta at CNN. So I just didn't want to ruin. I didn't want to ruin my Sunday. I know it's Donald Trump, but I didn't want to ruin my Sunday afternoon standing next to fake news media and Trump accidentally, the president, thinking I was with him. How about that?
Hey, that's a smart decision on your part, because when the president made comments like that about the press, everybody there started booing him, and they started chanting, CNN sucks, CNN sucks. And so it's probably a good idea that you weren't up there, because you are one of the good guys, Brian.
I may have taken, well, I appreciate that comment, but I may have taken a sign down there that said, not CNN, put up next to my camera, not CNN. So anyhow, yes, they broke out in a chant. So let me ask you a question. The excitement in the air, I don't know how you put a label on that. The Kemp campaign, they have one more day of campaigning. Are you aware, if you had any time to read up on the possible Georgia Democrat Party hack into the election system, or just putting that vaguely? Have you seen that headline? Have you had any time to talk to anybody or hear anything about that?
I have only seen what you've seen on the news. In fact, I heard this morning George Stephanopoulos interview Stacey Abrams on Good Morning America, and I heard that small interview, that short 2 or 3 minute interview about it. I have not seen anything officially from Brian Kemp's office as Secretary of State, or from the state of Georgia as an official, comment. So I don't know anything about it more than that. But it does disturb me that if we still have hackers trying to break into our system, we know we've got to work on that issue come next session, and we got to make sure that our voting machines are safe and secure going forward. And so these machines that we have today are almost 20 years old. I think Karen Handel actually purchased them when she was the Secretary of State several years ago. And so we've got to take a look at what do we need to do to make sure that that does not happen in the future.
Share with our voters. I have done this, Senator, over and over, but I wanted to come from you. Share with our voters, because you've worked over on the other side of the Capitol in the Senate chambers, and Stacey Abrams has been the minority leader. She's currently the minority leader in the House. But share with people what the difficulty would be with Stacey Abrams as governor of trying to pass legislation And for what I tell people, if I ever hear somebody say, "Oh, but we're going to have the House and the Senate," and I try to slow them down, say, "Whoa, wait a minute, that's not a simple out." Can you explain the difficulty it would be trying to get legislation passed or to work with this kind of governor?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It would be a very different situation than we've got right now in the Capitol. Currently, we're only one short in the Senate of having a 2/3 majority, which can override a veto. But over in the House, I think they're 3 or 4 members short of that supermajority. So we can't override a veto. If we pass any legislation, even the budget, and if she doesn't agree with it, she can veto that legislation, and then we would be stuck without, the 2/3 majority, and we don't have it in the Republican House or the Republican Senate. When Hunter Hill resigned to go to run for governor last year, we lost our supermajority in the Senate, but we definitely are worried about what may happen tomorrow in those seats. We're trying to get that seat back, that SD6, Senate District 6 in Marietta in Cobb County. We want to win that back. Leah Aldridge is running against the incumbent Democrat, Jenna Jordan, but we've got several House seats that we're worried about losing as well. And so without that supermajority, our hands are tied. So we would pass a lot of resolutions recognizing guests, naming roads after people, but that's not taking care of the business of Georgia. We've got to keep this seat as a Republican seat in the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office as well, or else it's really going to restrict what we can do going forward. And you can forget about passing good conservative legislation if you've got a Democrat governor that can veto everything that we pass, and we have no way to override that veto.
Well, I'm glad you expressed that, because I've been sharing that with our viewers for several weeks. Don't get overexcited because there's no supermajority. So if you send it to her desk and she vetoes it, you can't override it at the current state that you have right now. So there needs to be some pickups. Before we close, we appreciate it. Before we close, we do want to highlight that the Governor Nathan Deal has called a special session here. I think starting next week. Is it next week when it starts?
Yes, sir. It'll be on Tuesday morning.
Yes, and next Tuesday morning. Can you give us a little bit of highlight of what that session is about and what the overall objective of that special session is?
Well, officially he has not issued the call, and so we are waiting for that. And I predict, he'll probably issue that this week, as early as Wednesday. I believe there's going to be the main priority of this special called session is solely for the help of the hurricane relief for South Georgia. We've lost billions of dollars in value. If you look at the agricultural industry in the state of Georgia, plus all the damage to personal and private property and commercial properties and industrial properties. So we're talking billions of dollars in losses. Now the feds are going to help with some of that cleanup. The majority of that money is coming from Washington, but the state and the local governments have to pitch in their match. So that local fair share match has to be met, and so we're looking at 75, maybe $100 million that has to be allocated toward that federal match, and so we're going to be focusing strictly on that. I don't know of any other issue at this time that he has made public that he'll be asking us to consider. I do know that there are some appointments and executive orders that he's written since we left in May or in April, and I think those have to be brought back up. And according to the Constitution, they have to be addressed as soon as the General Assembly reconvenes, and so those things will probably be put on the agenda as well. But we won't know for sure until the governor issues that call, which again I predict will probably be as early as Wednesday.
Senator, thank you very much. Get some rest. We know you went, I don't know about you, for me, Macon's about 3.5 hours, and as the crow flies, as they say, it's got to be close to that for you also. So
it was well worth the drive for the experience of a lifetime.
All right, now when we get off here, you stay tuned, and I'll tell you why the polls don't mean anything. You stay tuned for some of my predictions if you have time.
I agree with you. I don't think the polls are accurate either. I think we're going to win big. So keep chopping that wood.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. State Senator Steve Gooch down there yesterday with Georgia, with the President of the United States at the Macon rally. We got numbers of 20,000, heard 30. That may be the overflow. We hear of miles of traffic trying to get in. We hear that online 62,000 tickets were requested, and 12,000 in attendance in Chattanooga, Tennessee, 42,000 in one day. I'm going to tell you what that means when we get back and why I think the polls mean nothing more than something for them to talk about at the corporate networks. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.